What we've got here is failure to communicate.
All right, you're looking at a picture of Newt Gingrich just arriving tonight for the CNN presidential debate here in Jacksonville at the University of North Florida. He is with his wife, Callista, as you can see. We've got Mitt Romney is here. Rick Santorum is here. We'll continue to watch as all the candidates come in, get their makeup on, and go on stage with Wolf Blitzer. Well, the Fangel brothers, Alfie, Pepe, Alexander, and Andres, operate a vast sugar and real estate business in the United States and the Dominican Republic. Now, you've probably seen their products on the shelves at the grocery store. Well, they're the guys behind Domino, Florida Crystals, C&H, and Red Path. And life for these sugar barons is pretty darn sweet. The Fangels are the largest landowners and private employers in the Dominican Republic, a nation of about 9.5 million people. Here in Florida, the family owns 155,000 acres in Palm Beach County alone. Which brings us to tonight's number, $4.5 billion. That is the dollar amount that big sugar, like the Fangels, apparently costs American consumers every year. According to Mark Perry, professor at the University of Michigan, by pushing for protectionist trade policies, sugar producers have forced Americans to pay an average of 53.3 cents per pound for sugar grown in America. That is double the average world price. That's pretty darn incredible. And it means that you feel it every time you buy a Reese's Pieces, a Snickers bar, a Coke, cereal, cookies. You pay more than you would if the Fangels weren't there. And the Fangels' influence doesn't end there. They also have a taste for politics. Over the past few decades, the family has donated to local, state, and federal campaigns, Democratic and Republican. They gave big to George W. Bush, and earlier this month, the Fangels co-hosted an event for Mitt Romney in Palm Beach that brought in about $2 million for his campaign. That would be a heck of a lot of chocolate bars. All right, we're going to take a brief break. We're 30 minutes away from CNN's Republican debate. What do the candidates need to do to win over Florida's voters? Look, we're here on a college campus. The passion for Ron Paul is audible, and you hear him. Ron Paul revolution. Rand Paul, meantime, described as irate for authorities of refusing a TSA pat-down. Now we've got the video. We'll be back. We start the second half of our show with stories we care about, where we focus on our own reporting, we do the work, and we find the out front five. We got a rowdy crowd here tonight getting ready for the Republican debate in Florida. Counting down to CNN's GOP debate. We're 30 minutes away. One issue bound to come up tonight is housing. Florida, one of the worst hit states in the entire country. Half of mortgages in this state are underwater. Housing prices are off 60% in Orlando, more than half in Tampa and in Miami. Major homebuilder CEO Stuart Miller of Lennar came out front earlier.
The fundamentals driving it are the fact that home prices are low, interest rates are low, and rental rates are starting to move upward. So the comparison between the two is favorable for for-sale housing. Demand is just starting to come back.
All right, number two, say goodbye to eye-grabbing but misleading low-price airfares. Under federal rules that took effect today, advertised airfares must include all taxes and fees. Other rules taking effect include prominently disclosing baggage fees and allowing passengers to cancel or change their reservation within 24 hours without charging a penalty. The Department of Transportation told out front it will monitor and fine airlines or websites that break the rules. Number three, what a perfect timing for this. I don't know if you can hear what they're saying behind me. They're saying end the TSA. This is a lot of support for Ron Paul. They love Ron Paul. They want to end the Fed. Well, Senator Rand Paul, Ron Paul's son, incident with the TSA on Monday. You may recall that came on our program that night. The Kentucky senator refused a pat down at a security checkpoint at the Nashville airport. According to an incident report, which was obtained by Outfront, Paul is described as being irate. However, the video shows a rather calm Senator Paul talking on his cell phone while being held in a glass cubicle. We talked to the senator on the day of the incident, and here's what he told Outfront.
You know what they did in the end? They said, if you'll go through the screener again, we'll just pretend like it didn't happen. I said, that's fine with me. That's all I've ever wanted, was to walk through the screener again. And then, you know what? The screener didn't pick up anything. So either the screeners aren't working very well, or I was being subjected to a random pat down, which I don't think is helping any of our safety.
Number 4, initial jobless claims rose by 21,000 to 377,000 last week. That comes off the lowest level for that in 4 years. Dean Brownhouse of WTG tells out front that despite the fluctuations we've been seeing, the labor market is healing and the trend is towards improvement. What will that do for our debt situation? It has been 174 days since America lost its top credit rating. What are we doing to get it back? Today, Defense Secretary Leon Panetta announced his plan to trim nearly $500 billion from the defense budget. We'll see if that's enough. This crowd here, though, of students at the University of North Florida, young people, passionate, have a solution, and the Fed. All right, well, there's no shortage of attacks between the candidates on the campaign trail. Now, you see them here. Just take a look. We'll take the shot up again. They're very passionate. They've been cheering and the Fed and the TSA. Ron Paul. In New Hampshire, and I've seen it in South Carolina, and I see it in Florida tonight. And that is that young people are very passionate about Ron Paul, and they want passionately to vote for him. They care. And seeing young people this involved and this passionate is a pretty neat thing, regardless of what you think about the candidate that they choose. All right. Let's talk about the super PACs. These groups can raise unlimited money. You heard James and Ari talking about it a moment ago. The whole theory is they can do it as long as they don't wink, wink, nod, nod, have any contact directly with the candidates. The super PAC supporting Mitt Romney, Restore Our Future, has already spent at least $10 million in Florida alone. The one supporting Newt Gingrich, Winning Our Future, says it plans to spend $6 million by next Tuesday, primary day. Most of that money is being spent on negative ads overwhelmingly. Here's a new one from the pro-Romney super PAC.
From debates, you'd think Newt Gingrich was Ronald Reagan's vice president.
I worked with President Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan played President Reagan.
Gingrich exaggerates, dropping Reagan's name 50 times. But in his diaries, Reagan mentioned Gingrich only once.
Are these ads? Out front now, John Avlon, Gloria Borger, and former White House press secretary Ari Fleischer. And I know I've got to yell very loud for Ari to hear me because the Paulites are very loud as well.
90% of what you're saying is being drowned out.
You got the Paulites, you got the 99%. It's great. Gloria, let me start with you. The super PAC supporting Newt Gingrich had not spent $1 in Florida before this week. Only Mitt Romney's ads were visible. This week, Newt tied with Mitt. Proof it worked?
Well, without these super PACs, I don't think Newt Gingrich would be able to continue his campaign, period. He'd be dead in the water. He's got Sheldon Adelson giving him an awful lot of money, $10 million.
The big casino magnate.
Right, and you need this money to continue because Newt Gingrich was unable to raise this kind of money. So what these super PACs have done is essentially extend the life of this campaign. And it could, go on after Florida because you're competitive when you can go up on the air.
You know, it's interesting. Arriving here in Jacksonville was very different than arriving in Manchester or in Charleston, South Carolina. You saw lots of signs on the roads and in front of people's houses there, and really not as much here in Jacksonville. It's a different sort of election here. So do ads matter more?
Ads really do matter here. You've got 10 media markets in Florida. It's an expensive place to run. And significantly, Mitt Romney and his super PAC have been up with negative ads since almost before Iowa. So it's been an avalanche of negative ads, and it has shown some ability to at least stop momentum. In many ways, Florida's a fight between money and momentum. So this is a real test. And this primary, all primaries aren't created equal. The Florida primary matters more than most. If Newt can pull off a win here, it would take the bottom out of Romney's campaign, remove his rationale as the electable candidate, the inevitable candidate. But if Mitt Romney can win, it's back in the saddle. He wins Florida as expected, the tiebreaker after the January gauntlet.
Ari, I was going to play a soundbite from Jeb Bush, but I won't because none of us will be able to hear it. But John King talked to Jeb Bush tonight, and Jeb Bush basically said, look, if you just drown all this in negativity, you take away the connection people have with their candidates, you do yourself more harm in the long run. What do you think?
Well, this gets to the core issue of what's at stake right now for the Republican Party. Are we doing so much damage to each other that we're going to hand this election to Barack Obama? We have a real split right down the middle of the party between the establishment wing, the mainstream conservative wing, and the new group, which is really the Tea Party energized grassroots wing, which was the power of 2010. Newt's picked up that group. And the problem is, most people don't think Newt can be elected president. So that's what's being tested here. These negative ads are help driving it in that direction.
Gloria, can Mitt Romney get the nomination if he does not win Florida?
I think
Two death blows in a row.
I think he could. I think it goes on and on and on. And I think it becomes very difficult for Newt Gingrich if he doesn't win Florida. Romney's got the money. He's got the organization in the states. For example, he's been organizing in this state of Florida with early voters, with absentee ballots.
Right.
He's been able to do that. That's going to help him. Newt Gingrich doesn't have that kind of infrastructure. What he's got is a grassroots, anti-establishment movement going, and you know, that means something.
John's been looking at this whole absentee ballot issue. He said a third of the ballots in the state could be absentee or early voting.
Right.
And you have a sense of kind of the two people who would have likely benefited from that.
Well, absentee votes in particular have a Ron Paul edge because they're largely military votes. Ron Paul's done very well with military votes, counterintuitive but true. And then Romney, because he was that conventional wisdom front runner early. The early voting, however, might have benefited from that post-South Carolina surge for Newt Gingrich. But bottom line, we have an electorate all throughout this year that's been angry, frustrated, wanting to send a message to the establishment. That's a certain win at Newt Gingrich patch if he can have a strong debate tonight. This debate is pivotal for Newt Gingrich. He's got to kind of recapture that momentum and enthusiasm that he did after South Carolina.
Pivotal for Mitt Romney, though.
It's pivotal for both of them.
Right.
Tonight's this is the big enchilada debate tonight.
Right.
It's all coming down to the wire.
And I guarantee you, they're both going to be ready to fight it out on stage tonight. It's too much at stake. Romney in our poll started doing better when he went on offense.